financial activity take place without give and take of interest. And that's how Islamic banks in the Middle East, for example, in Malaysia, in India, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, that's how they're operating.
All right, we're going to take a break. After the break, we'll talk about Islam and violence. Join us then. We're going to talk now for the remaining part of the programme on Islam and violence, and probably get to a few other subjects as well. Oliver, is there an incitement to jihad from your reading of the Quran?
Well, it's an extremely complex issue. I mean, jihad, which usually is translated as holy war, actually means, I mean, the original meaning in Arabic is a struggle and effort. And I suppose interpreters of the Quran have said, you know, there are different dimensions, different meanings to the term jihad. I mean, there is meaning struggle. There's the jihad in your heart. There's jihad with your hand. There's the jihad with your mouth.
Two elements of jihad. One is surrender to God, I suppose,
yes,
is part, and the other is, but the other is a military.
There is obviously this dimension. I suppose. It is there. You know, again, it's a question of interpretation. I mean, again, the kind of liberal commentators would say we need to see the Quran in the historical context, or, you know, the messages in the historical context in which they emerged. The society in which Islam emerged, in which Muhammad acted, was a society in which warfare was a daily occurrence. You know, it was normal that tribes would fight against each other. So in this context, this new community, this new religious movement that Muhammad was creating could only survive by, you know, accepting the kind of ways of engaging that existed within this particular society. So, that was the historical context. It is not applicable to the contemporary situation, where the context is entirely different. But obviously there are also people who say, no, it needs to be taken literally. We need to fight against the opponents of Islam. Everybody who who's not a Muslim is an unbeliever. Or even Muslims who don't follow the right interpretation of Islam, they need to be fought against. So, I mean, there's a whole range of interpretations.
How do you make of this?
Of course, I mean, if people take a text and they can twist it and tweak it as they fit, as it suits their agenda. Islam started as a peaceful movement, as an honest discussion, dialogue movement. Unfortunately, at the times of from the time of the Prophet, since he migrated from Mecca to Medina, the Muslims were constantly assaulted. They were constantly prevented from conducting their business. So they had to take up arms and defend themselves. And the conquests that followed after the death of the Prophet, these conquests were, to start with, were originally meant to establish diplomatic relations, or to start with trade links, and along the process something happened and the fight went on. Islam does not itself encourage violence. In fact, jihad, as the meaning, as Oliver said, it is a struggle. And a struggle does not imply that you proactively go and seek someone to kill. It is a struggle against what you feel is a degradation of humanity, what you feel is a removal of your rights, or an oppression, an aggression, an act of aggression. And if you look at modern world, Muslim societies, in the media we see a lot of violence in the Muslim communities and Muslim societies. That is because that's where the media points its cameras, its lenses to. What we do not see is the amount of violence that is generated from the likes of America, from the likes of UK, France, who are vendors of weapons of mass destruction. So the weapons of mass destruction are being produced by societies which are not Muslim, or even if they are being produced by societies which are not Muslim, these societies are controlled by dictatorships, by tyrants, such as the situation in Syria right now, who have their own agendas. Islam itself as a system has very clear guidelines on fighting. When you fight, what do you do and how do you do? You don't kill children, you don't kill women, you don't cut down trees, you don't burn fields, you don't use fire to kill your enemy, and so on. You fight a defensive war and a war of justice. When people ask for help, you help them. Otherwise,
but nonetheless, a lot of people in Islam, admittedly a small minority, in the Muslim world, see justification for extreme violence against the West, for instance, in the Quran.
But the West also sees justification for extreme violence. I mean, the drones that fall on civilians, is that not extreme violence, Vincent?
In my view, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
I mean, the use of nuclear weapons, depleted uranium in Iraq, was that not acts of extreme violence? The chemical weapons that has allegedly been used by the Assad regime right now, it is reported that the weapons were sold by UK. So who is committing the extreme violence here? We hear of gun crimes in America on a regular basis. It's gone higher and higher. We don't hear of gun crimes, say, in China or in
Do you share
Malaysia.
a perception that seems to be fairly prevalent in the Muslim world, that the West is out to destroy Islam?
You see, on the streets in the Muslim world, in Ireland, you would talk to normal Muslims, and they'll tell you they have nothing against the West. In fact, we have come to the West looking for a better life, right? Because back in our own countries, home countries, we cannot express ourselves, we are constrained, and so on, thanks to the support given to these dictatorships by the West itself. So personally and individually, on an individual level, civil society itself does not have anything against the West. Yes, because America, for example, and I specify America here, the policies of America is to cheat and deceive and support. So they armed Saddam Hussein and then they took him down. They were friends with Assad, and now they're planning to take him down. They're friends with Hosni Mubarak, and they've supported his people, and they did not respect the will of the Egyptian people. They support dictatorships across the world anyway. So Muslims automatically feel some enmity or animosity towards the administration, not to the West in general.
Lorraine, as a Muslim woman going around the streets of Dublin dressed as you are, do you encounter hostility?
Yes. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I don't. Now, Irish society, the majority of Irish society are very accepting and everything is fine and live and let live. But there is a minority, and that minority can make your life hell. They really can. Go back to your own country, you know.
You say,
yeah, you know, you're. When I put my hijab on, I lost my identity as Lorraine from Kulak, and now I am a Paki. And my children are Paki, and I mean, he's from India, and like we've got nothing, we've no relatives, we've no blood, I've never been to Pakistan, and I certainly don't have any intention of going to Pakistan. We've no links there.
How about Mecca?
I'd love to go to Mecca. I'm not lying there. Of course I will one day, inshallah, if God wills, that I will go visit the pilgrimage, just like when I was a Catholic, I went to Lourdes, and inshallah I will go on this pilgrimage.
Tell us a bit more about how your life has made a misery.
Well, it's not a full misery. That's a statement you're saying, how my life is made a misery. There is elements of racial abuse. Yes, there is. There is people say to you, you know, as I said to you, Paki, go back to your own country. My car was recently egged. You know, there is small elements of racial abuse that are there, and I find that very sad. The reason I find that sad is I've no foreign blood in my bloodline at all. I am originally, as I said, from the north side of Dublin. Mum and Dad are pure Irish. They're great-grandparents all the way back. And I feel sorry for the foreign immigrants who come here. If I'm getting this element, now as I said, it's only a minority. If I'm getting this minority of abuse, what about these poor people that are coming here? And people seem to forget half of America is made up from the Irish and English. We emigrated years ago to find a better life and find better jobs and better prospects for our families. the immigrants that come in shouldn't have to put up to that.
Thank you. And that's all from Challenging God from us tonight. Good night.